All right, cool. I think it's recording. Um, Hi, everyone. This is our CTP podcast. We had initially hoped that it would be our CTP weekly podcast, but obviously we haven't been able to produce these audio recordings weekly. But we'll work with what we have. Today, there's two of us. There's me and there's Davey. I guess like me as in Brooke, and we'll both go to introductions. Basically, to kind of give you what this thing will be about, it's going to be we try and share our experiences, like share mostly Davy's experiences on the college application, and we're giving this podcast a theme, a specific theme on gap years and college applications. So um, we get a lot of questions about applying to colleges why during a gap year. So this is kind of to address that question. Um, so we can get right to it. I'll start with introductions. My name is Bruk. I'm a Columbia University student. I'm a senior right now. I'm majoring in computer science. I guess I'm graduating in like 2 months, which is crazy. I was a St. Joseph High School student in Addis Ababa. Um, yeah, that's pretty much about me. And to the main person now, let's, Davey, please introduce yourself.
Oh, hi everybody. My name is Debi. Um, I'm from St. Joe. I'm right now a rising junior at Columbia University. Um, my major is let's say it's econ. But yeah, I'm still exploring. Um, I think that's it. I have covered everything right.
Yeah, which the fact that you said you're still exploring is also a good point to our listeners because you're a rising junior and you're still
Yeah,
exploring,
yeah.
which is really a thing. Like, because most people think, oh, I need to be very decided by the time I apply, and I don't know what the heck I'm going to do. But it's very common for even rising juniors to,
Yeah,
to
it's
still be
kind of
exploring.
yeah, it's but that's one of the good things about like education here, right? Because you are given that kind of flexibility, like you can choose whenever like not whenever you want, but like you are given more space to kind of think and like make a decision about it. So like you don't really need I mean like it's basically if you know it like by your first year or like at least by your second year, but like there are still ways you can think about and like still make
Yeah,
different
yeah,
decisions.
yeah, definitely for sure. Um, yeah, that was just like, um, like strange to hear, but like that's definitely a good part of college here, I guess. You don't have to commit as soon as you start.
Exactly.
Okay, so I guess let's get right to it. Uh, so like how do you like your econ major? Like we can start with that and then go to, I guess, like more gap year questions and college applications. And I guess you said you're not like decided right now.
Yeah.
Because I know you're doing like med school during your gap year, and not really med school, but like yeah, med school. Like you were in Tukurabasa, I like Addis Ababa University. You learned, I believe, for 1 year before you came here.
Yeah.
Um, so what's the like, I guess why the shift? And yeah.
Okay, well, like for a long time, like this is, I guess, like in high school, like for a long time, I didn't really know what I wanted to study. Like, ብዙ ሀሳቦች ነበሩኝ. Like, it's mostly related to like what movie I watched that week. It's like it changed rapidly. Like, I'm not going to I'm not gonna say the only reason I got into medicine, but like ኃይለኛ ፐርሰንቴጁን ምክንያት የሚወስደው like it's because of like Grey's Anatomy. Like I'm just affected by like the movies that I watch. I watched Suits, a week late, and then I was like thinking I am gonna be a lawyer and like stuff like that. So I didn't really have like a clear cut like idea even like from the beginning. So like መጨረሻ ላይ 12ኛ ክፍል ላይ ደርሰን when we had to choose like which field we're gonna pursue, I was like, what am I going to choose? Because all I can diagnose is like this kind of thinking in Ethiopia. Like, I think most of you like are aware of it. If you're science, you have to choose like is it medicine or is it engineering? Like, is it like there's no other option? Like, you have to choose one of those two things. So I was kind of like thinking about it, and I was like, well, I know like what medicine can do. Like, I have this, like I guess you'd say fetish or something, because it's not really like real interest, not an interest that has been explored, but like an interest that's like based on like things that I watched. So I was like, I'm gonna do medicine. So I got in it, and like and this was like after I applied and I got rejected to like most colleges.
Okay.
And like I was like fully into it. Like I thought like at that point, I'm just gonna pursue medicine. I'm just gonna do it here. So I got in it, and like we started learning. And then guess what? That vision that I had in my mind was not like really the same thing as like the one that I was getting, but like the one that I was experiencing. And
Not everything is Grey's Anatomy.
exactly, everything is not Grey's Anatomy. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is not for me. Like, maybe I need to think about some things. And like during that point in time, like most of my friends were like applying, like there was like ብዙ ጓደኞቼ በአጠቃላይ like they got rejected as well, and like most of them were like applying. And like how peer pressure works, peer pressure not only bad like in bad kind of things, but like it also like has like positive things, like in this kind of situations then with it kind of helps you. So I was like እነሱ apply ሲያደርጉ ምናምን እኔም ቀስ በቀስ ገባሁበት እና I didn't really have high hopes about it. I was like, this is like an opportunity. I want to try it. And I didn't really like what was the option like that I had in front of me, like the medicine thing. So I was like, let me do it for you couple of it. And then,
Okay.
well, it worked, and then it worked. I'm here now. Uh, but yeah, it was a very sudden shift, and like to go from like I guess from medicine to econ. I mean, um,
Yeah, that's a very
yeah,
big transition.
yeah. I think
Yeah.
we could talk about this like for a long time. So
Time.
like I'm just gonna
That's true.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So I guess let's like jump right into college applications. Um, I know, okay, I'm gonna like have it right out there because I know you were accepted to like, you're one of the very few people. In fact, you might be the only person I know who got accepted to both Columbia and Princeton, like as an Ethiopian person. And I'm actually not sure if you're accepted to other schools or if even if you applied to other schools during your gap year. So take us like through the process. Like, what schools did you apply to? Where were you accepted? Where were you rejected?
Okay, yeah. Sure. So as I've said, like majorly like during September and October, like busy easy. Like I don't think even classes started like during October, like mid school, I don't know. So I was like fully into the idea of like learning there. So I was not really like applying. So by the time the decision came around, I couldn't, because I just like easier out for it. But was like I wasn't really interested in applying again. But like the second time around, like regular decision came
Regular
around, and
decision. Okay.
yeah, regular decision came around. And that was the point in time I started thinking about like, where can I apply? What did I do the last time around? um then so I decided, like, the first time around I applied to like 15 schools, and like I was thinking, right now, can I do that thing again? Or will that be like, what am I like trying to get out of this thing? And I was like,
So sorry to interrupt you. Just to make it clear for like our listeners, when
yeah.
you mean by the first time around, you mean your college applications during high school, like 12th grade high school, right?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the
Okay.
one. Like I applied to like 15 schools when I was like in grade 12.
Okay.
But like when this like during my gap year, I kind of thought like maybe I should kind of decrease that, because I could like focus on some applications and like do my best work in them. And since I kind of like came into the, even like for the regular decision round, I came into it like late. Like it was, I think, like December, like it was 1 month ago. So I was like, I needed to choose like a few amount of colleges. So I kind of decided to go with like, I think, this was like five colleges. I applied to five colleges. I chose like two of them to be like this elite colleges, and like quote unquote, and the other two to be just like, like I wouldn't say like just
Do
not
you remember?
categorized, yeah, not categorized as elite and stuff, but like they still did like amazing stuff, and like one at safety school. So I applied to Columbia,
Okay.
Princeton, Vassar, Amherst, and Swarthmore. Um,
Okay.
I got into Columbia, Princeton, and Vassar. I got rejected from Swarthmore and Amherst, and then I chose Columbia.
Interesting. Okay. I never heard about the Vassar acceptance as well. Okay. I guess
Yeah.
I'm finding out things as well. So applied to 5 colleges and got accepted to 3. But I guess like the main key, like the main thing that we want to talk about here today is the fact that you had you've done college applications during your high school, like in 12th grade, applied to 15 different schools, and I'm assuming you got rejected from all of them. Um, um, and then, but then did it and like waited for a whole year, took it like basically taking a gap year, and then applied to only like 5 different schools, to only 5 schools, and then got accepted to 3 of them. So, I mean, clearly, like, there's something that you've done wrong the first time around, something they've done right, like the second time around. I'm assuming you probably learned from like a bunch of your previous experiences. So, what did you like? What are the things that you would say you did correctly the second time around? Like when you and like what did you learn from your first experience of applying to colleges?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. So like as soon as like Assam's to collegios decision to like go, like once I got rejected, I just like took time. I didn't like really react to anything. Like I was just like, let me analyze this. I'm not just gonna move on and like think about like up here as soon as this is finished. I just need like to take time and think about what happened. Like just us on outside of me, like just trying to take a look at like what did I do right, what did I do wrong. Um, and I think one of the biggest things I think was the role I give to like supplements because the first time around I didn't think of like supplements as this like important thing because they ask you like why do you choose this college or like why do you choose this major and like it's like 300 words or like 150 words and it feels like something you can just like write out at a single sitting and I
Yeah.
think I thought of it like that way and I did it that way so the second time around, I was very careful and like I kind of took my time with the supplementers and tried to do them like one day at a time, and like give them just like more time, just focus on them. So that's one important thing that I did. The second one was I like in my gap year, I tried to do like all of this like like Timothy Swanson, but like I like we focus on like these clubs and like we try to participate like in all of these clubs. And I felt like this could be like a really bad thing because you're like spreading yourself too thin and like you are not really experiencing one good thing like in just one setting. And so I kind of tried to focus on like during the summer I kind of went for an internship and I worked at like some um it was like we created like content for websites and like I was just like a writer on that and so I kind of just like focused on that one thing and tried to see like if I could get some kind of motivation for like my supplementers for other parts of my application so that kind of helped. I'm not saying like you need to go out and like find like internship and stuff like that but like you should focus on like one volunteer thing or like one extracurricular thing and like see what it can give you because like it can really give you like motivation to write for your supplement is for your common up essay and stuff like that. So I kind of did that. Another thing was they are getting rid of like the subject test right now, but like during that time I just took the subject test. That was
Okay.
one other thing.
So you took the subject test
Mhm.
during the like so you studied for the subject test over the summer or like what was the timeline if you taking the subject test?
Yeah, like as I've said, I didn't really know I was gonna apply until like the last point. So like
Okay.
I think I took the subject test in November. I think like that was the time, and I didn't really study for it because I think like I studied like 1 week or like maybe 2 weeks before that. I think I got registered for it as a wait list. But like the main thing was like you kind of learn those things like in grade
Yeah.
12 and like I chose like subjects that I'm really good at and like that I really love like I loved chemistry so like I definitely chose that one. I knew that I would be good at it and like I chose math as well so like it didn't really and I think I guess I might have been lucky. Like I think I remember the exam. I took the subject test before that as well. But
Okay.
like during this time, like it didn't feel I don't not as hard, but like you had like enough time to finish all of those questions. So it might just be like a bit of luck as well. But like yeah, that was what happened. Um And like the
Okay.
first time around as well, I didn't really have a common up like a counselor recommendation. That also changed it the second time around. I had a counselor recommendation.
Mhm.
So like those things are important as well. So like you should tell your teachers and your counselors to write it like in a really good way. Like you should um, remind them like the things that you did and like really good things like for them to include because those things do really matter as well. Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah. Okay, wow. So like there's a bunch of things that I actually want to kind of go back and highlight as well. The first one, like when you mentioned subject tests and taking it after like during your gap year, I guess, or like after your 12th grade. And that's actually super useful because um if you take it during your like as soon as you get into grade 12, so like probably around September, October, the problem is like you haven't learned some of the content yet. So some of the content in the subject test, like for example, I remember I like for physics and like even for math, um it has some sort of calculus, but at the beginning of grade 12 you haven't learned calculus yet. Let's see, like you learn you start like learning calculus, like pre-calculus, during grade 12. So most of the stuff on the subject test you'd have to self-learn. But if you do it after, like suppose you take gap years, not only would you have learned those like content, but you'd have already like studied for them for like the national examination. So which I think really helps you on like if you since like you normally do a very intensive like studying for your national examination, you already know like most of the content that's like covered on the subject tests. So you just need like you said, like to brush up on like a couple of weeks or stuff. um
Yeah,
but
I
like
think that's a really good one. Yeah, that's a really good advice.
yeah, yeah, definitely. But like obviously if they're like students taking it during their 12th grade, they obviously have to study much more than like 1 or 2 weeks, because they have to like learn the content first and then like make sure they master it, the timing and everything else. But yeah, that's one good point. And in terms of supplement essay, it's also interesting that you brought it up because I also remember my supplement essays were like trash like the first time around. We kind of have the same experiences where I applied to a bunch of different colleges during my 12th grade high school year, and then I got rejected from all of them. And then like the next time around, I just applied early decision to Columbia. I just applied to one schools and I got accepted. But at least like the only thing that I didn't even change my SAT. I used the same SAT scores. I didn't take another like subject test. So it wasn't like, oh, first time he had bad scores and this time he had better scores. My scores, I used the same exact scores that I had the previous time. So the only things that were changed were like supplement essays and common app essay, obviously. My supplement essays the first time around, they were just like um, I didn't spend enough time on them. So like you said, we normally don't think it's important. There's this, especially, I don't know if it's just St. Joe actually. I think it's just like the entire like a lot of high schools in Ethiopia, like when we were doing college applications, mostly because we don't know um, what is important and what's not. We focus on the scores. We focus too much on the getting the best SAT scores. So for like if you have 5 months of like college application preparations, we basically dedicated like the 4 months to making sure we ace the SAT scores and ace the subject tests. But then and then like spent only like a single month for all of the essays, like all of the supplement essays and common up, which you would imagine just results in a very like mediocre, if not like a very bad essay. um so yeah, I definitely want to highlight, so supplement essays is something that you really focused on your next time around. um okay, so let's see. Another, so like I guess I can transition now to the application process itself. So we get a lot of questions, like every year we get a lot of questions about, is the application itself different for gap year students as opposed to like for 12th grade students, right? So like am I can you kind of clarify things about that? Is there a different application process? Is there something they need to do? um yeah.
Well, like during the time that I applied, there wasn't really like a checkbox that asked you like if you were gap year. I don't really remember one where it asked me like if I took a gap year or something. Um, but like my general experience was um, like they would know that you took a gap year because your transcript is going to show like some kind of jump. So like they would probably know it, but like I didn't really like go out there and told them like I'm taking a gap year. But I've heard like people come to us like and like ask, like we have been asked it like what did you do in your gap year? Like there was like this kind of this like it has been part of like the common app. So I don't really know, like that didn't really exist like during my time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so I think what you're mentioning now, what Davy's mentioning right now is it's not really a huge change. I think over the past year or something, Common App has introduced this one very short response question where they're like, if you if you state that you're a gap year student, that you're in your gap year, then they're just like, okay, what did you do during your gap year, or what are you doing during your gap year? Like, why did you take a gap year? So it's just like a very short essay response question. But other than that, do you like, is there any difference to the common application process, to the SAT or anything? Um, and also, I guess like a very important question is, um, do they apply as a transfer students or do they apply as regular first years?
Okay. Yeah, I think besides like this new feature that I guess Common App has added, I don't think like there's any part of like the application that's really different. If you're a gap year, like you would just do like all of the same things that like you did the first time you applied. I think it's like everything is the same. Um, I guess that's my experience. But with regards to like applying as a transfer student, I don't really like advise that because like when you're applying as a transfer student, you are saying, I have learned it like all of this like really good things from this like school, and I'm just gonna continue like as a sophomore like in the school that I'm going to. And that is like a really bad thing because there's like some kind of gap that exists between what you might learn and like I don't know like wherever you just go and like the one that you will
Right,
like
right.
mencari captaችሁ access ተደርጎበት ታውቂያለሽ ትምህርት like there might be like a huge difference. And in addition to that, I don't think like I don't think like there's a greater percentage for people that apply like as a transfer student. I don't think like higher acceptance rate Australia አይመስለኝም. So like
Almost zero acceptance rate
yeah,
on, actually not even close to high acceptance rates. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, like even እዚህ ራሱ ያሉ ሰዎች apply ሲያደርጉ as a transfer, I remember like one of my friends, she was in Brown and she transferred to
Mhm.
Colombia. Like እንደዚህ አይነት kind of transfer ናቸው ያሉ like you know like from those ራሳቸው እዛው elite ያሉ ቦታዎች ወደ elite like
From
just
Ivy League to another
yeah
Ivy League
Ivy
type
League
of
to
thing.
Ivy League school እንደዛ kind of thing ነው ያለው. It's
Right.
not really like yeah. So I think that's what I would say about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I normally, like, when students ask me this question, I just like, no, definitely not transfer students. I don't even go through the reasoning like for this and that, because like the likelihood of getting accepted as a transfer student is basically zero, especially from an Ethiopian university. Like, I don't know, like even from Addis Ababa University, like um it's just like the curriculums are so different, you won't be able to transfer any credits. So normally how transferring like would work is you transfer some of your credits, the credits that you took from your first year university to your new university. But since these are like very different curriculum and very different types of like universities, they won't even accept them. And not only that, even if you were like attending universities in the US and you wanted to transfer to another school, normally colleges have very few spots for transfer students, like not even close to like the regular application. So it's basically, I would not suggest applying as a transfer student. I would always like suggest applying as a like freshman. um yeah, but definitely a good thing to have for our listeners, like a good tip to have for our listeners. um I guess to kind of pick your brain on how your application went, and like I want to talk a little about like what your extracurriculars look like. Like what were some of the extracurriculars you mentioned on your common application, and like what do you advise, like, what are the do's and the don'ts? And I know you kind of like brushed upon it like before.
Yeah. So I think like the first time around him, I was like thinking I need to like go to like all of these clubs and like do that thing. I was also like a victim of that. A victim of that thinking. So like grade 10, grade 11, like I was part of like all of these clubs. But like at the end, like I think what they at the end, like what matters is how do you show like how this extracurriculars like help you, like because this extracurriculars will be like without you even knowing it will be part of your supplemented, it will be part of your common apps in some ways. It will be part of like probably your teacher's recommendations as well. So it's like, what are you doing in that organization? What are you doing in that volunteer organization or like in that extracurricular? What are you bringing to the table? And like I think you'll also be given like a space to kind of give like what you did, like to kind of give a general idea of like what you did in that extracurricular club. So like those are also important ways because the way you express what you did also matters as well. Do not like take any part of the application like lightly. Like when it says in like for example, like I was like part of the Interact Club. So like if I say Interact Club and like vice president or like something, and then in my description I should be careful and like write something that's really good. I shouldn't say just something like uh we did this and this, like kind of like a general kind of thing. So I have like be
Specific, more
specific,
specific.
yeah,
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 yeah.
and like show what you really did in that kind of thing.
Mm,
So I think I was like I chose environmental club because I was a president of that club.
okay.
Yeah, just to show leadership, I chose that, and I think I also chose Interact Club. Kasuchiga Madriarlux, I kind of did. I think I also chose like two volunteer organizations, SOS and what was it? There was also one other organization, Red Cross. And then what
Okay.
I chose to do with others was I was trying to showcase like some other qualities that I have. So I chose like MUN, even though like I didn't really have any leadership position. I chose MUN because I am like really interested in this stuff, and like it's about something that you write and you're like in that tiny box that they give you. And also I
Mm-hmm.
kind of included like the internship that I did because like for the second one, like for the gap year one,
Yeah.
and also like because that was really important because that experience helped me. Like most of my supplements like track themselves from like the experience I had during that time. So like it was really important that like I included that. And I think like this was basically it. I mean I don't remember it exactly, but like I think these were like the main ones that I included. But like again, what I stress is yeah, you should like try to see like lots of you should try to involve yourself like in some clubs, but don't like stretch yourself too thin, and like try to do something really good in that organization, something that you can be proud of, and something that hopefully will be part of like your supplements and stuff like that. And also like the teachers will not really have hard time talking about like leadership qualities and like stuff like that because they will have like examples to go with, and like they can really write a really good recommendations. So yeah, that's I think that's definitely an important one.
Yeah. I agree with everything that you mentioned here. Especially the part where you said like in terms of um as opposed to going like spreading yourself too thin with like participating to all clubs and making sure you fill out all 10 boxes. I think I don't know if like Common App still has that, but they give you 10 like 10 different slots to fill out about like all of your different extracurriculars. Go more for like stuff that for depth, like they also need ones like um okay, yeah, sure, you've participated in 10 like a bunch of different clubs and a bunch of different activities, but how you participate in those in depth, meaning like is there more commitments, like have you had some sort of leadership positions in them? um oh, it's more about like how have you been committed to it like to an extended amount of time, and there to like so it's like this balance between some amount of commitment and some amount of diversity as well. Like they don't want you like, for example, I don't know, like you suppose you're applying to an engineering school. Just because you're applying to an engineering school doesn't mean your entire extracurricular needs to be like math club, physics club, space science club and everything like that. Like they also want to see some sort of diversity because at the end of the day they're accepting a student into um, a campus where they're like where there's social life and everything. They're not just taking in like an academic person who's just like a machine that goes into work. There's a whole like interaction with dormitory students. So like it does make sense from the college's perspective why they ask this as well. um but yeah, definitely there's that. One thing like I also want to add, and what which I really think is super important, which also comes up, I think we've probably come across this, is does it only have to be clubs or like even like community organizations, right? Like uh, volunteer organizations. Um, I guess like I actually want to hear like what other ways do you know that students can like what other things can students mention in their extracurricular activities that are not clubs or volunteer participations?
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good question. Um, I can really think like off the on the top of my head until now, like Demi Palo. You can like even mention like how you looked after like your like your siblings and stuff like that. I think I'm not sure exactly, but like I think you can also do
Mm-hmm.
that. What I did was like my mother like as like a researcher and like she like goes and like she does it just like around like different places. She goes around and like asks people and like just about like cultural things, like more of like an anthropologist kind of thing. And so what I did was, even though it was not an internship and even though I didn't really get anything, I kind of like said that I used to I edited like her researches and like stuff like that, and I included it as part of like my application. It was not an internship. It was not anything. It was not like, it was not an extracurricular. It was not a voluntary thing, but like it was just something that I did. And I felt like that could also be like a really good part of like my application. So I was like, I helped it, like my mom was by editing like her research and stuff like that. That could be one example. But like I think there are like lots and lots of examples. I just can't think of any right now.
Yeah, actually, so that one is a very like a good example that you can mention. Some things I guess like that I also have in mind are it doesn't really have to be like clubs. Like that's one thing that I want to emphasize for students. Like some like it can be a hobby, right? When I mean by hobby, something like a productive hobby. For example, cooking. If you cook a lot, right? Like if you're kind of obsessed about cooking, or even if it's like if it's your favorite pastime, it's definitely something that needs to go as your like extracurricular, like, meaning like you learn different types of cooking. You learn, maybe it's baking, maybe it's, I don't know, some exotic foods from like different countries or something that you learn through YouTube. It can be anything. So that's like cooking is one thing. Drawing, it can be another like huge skill that can be showcased as an extracurricular. If you like to learn, I don't know, like learning new languages maybe might be your thing. Or I don't know, like I know some students who've do like who just said they dance in their spare time, like they do practice, like they do practice dances and stuff like that, um which might not seem, oh wait, these they sound minor, like they sound minor things, but these are the kind of things that contribute to a like a vibrant community in college. And so it really um like it really stands out for college like admission officers.
Yeah, because like at the end of the day, like you're just trying to tell a story, and like that is definitely like
Mhm.
part of who you are. So like, yeah.
Yep, yep. Okay. All right, I really like this. I guess I want to kind of transition now into, we might even be running out of time, but I want to like see if you have some specific personal advices for applicants, based on your own experiences. This can be like um, what you want students to focus on, or like what are the things that you've learned from, I guess, both years of application, applying to colleges. What are some of your advices and like your personal experiences that you want to highlight?
Okay, yeah. I guess I might just be like echoing like I guess everything that we said up to this point, but
Hmm.
what I think is like I think I've talked about the extracurricular stuff, so like yeah, so just to kind of go a bit, but like yeah, sure, you should like gauge your city score to be like as high as possible. Yeah, you should definitely do that. Again, because again, it doesn't really end there. Like you need to think about your essays, you need to think about your supplements, and what you're trying to do like at the end of the day is you're trying to tell a story to like these people. You're trying to say this is me. So when you're trying to do that, do not like go around and like he know him, yeah, I know him, yeah, I know him, yeah, I know him. Like that sound like you're trying to just tell like a story. So if I was like የሆነ የሚያውቃችሁ ሰው ቢኖር and like if I removed the name, like if like all of your application መጥቶ ቢቀመጥ on my desk, and if I remove the name and if I read this application to somebody else, and like that person should say, like to one of your friends, that person should say this somebody ይሄኛው ሰውዬ እንትና ነው ብሎ ሊነግረኝ ይገባል. If your application does that, then you are really doing a good thing, because that's what it's supposed to, like especially with your essays and with your supplementers, you're trying to tell a story, and like it should just, like when people say it should be like unique to you, this is what they really mean. If I just removed the name, your label, that person should identify that this application is clearly yours. So that's one thing that you should definitely do. The second thing, like probably like with Corn and stuff like that, most of you like that have applied last year, it might not have worked, and do not like lose hope by that. Like clearly, like there are በየቀኑ የምንሰማቸው ጋፒል ላይ accepted የሆኑ ሰዎች, it's like so many people, like lots and lots of people. So don't really like lose hope by that. But like one thing you should definitely do is at the end of like that, like አመት ካለቀ በኋላ, do not rush into like thinking about what am I going to do the next time around. What you should think is like take time, take a week, no, not a week, like a month or maybe even 2 months, and just think about what happened like over the past 7 months or over the past 2 years. What did you do? What did you do right? What did you do wrong? Like all of these things, because at the end of the day, like you will see during that reflection, you will see what you really need to improve upon, and you can focus on that. So I think this is definitely like one thing that most people do, is like they just rush in into like the next challenge. But like you should definitely take time and like just think about what just transpired. um Besides that, I think I have talked about exactly, because those are things that are important. And also like build a good relationship with your teachers and counselors, especially like if you're grade 9, grade 10. This should be one thing that you should do. And when you do when you do like all of these things, when they like at the end of the day, like when they write like all of these recommendations, they will be like more receptive, and like they will write you a good recommendation. And all those things matter as well. Some people like do not think like እነዚህ ነገሮች not as important ናቸው ብሎ ሊያስቡ ይችላል. But like those things are important, because at the end of the day, what they're thinking is ይሄ አስተማሪ ወይም ይሄ counselor, if they are not taking like 1 hour or 2 hours of their time and like write a really good, or like describe like in a really good way, why should I be investing like 80,000 or some dollars like over the course of over the course of like 4 years? I guess it would be like 300 something thousand dollars. Why should I do that if somebody like a teacher or somebody like that you encounter with like every day for like a year cannot do something about it? So you should definitely think about these things, and you should definitely try to get a really good connection going. Yeah, all of these things matter. Every single part of the application matters. Do not like discount anything. You're trying to tell a story, and use all of those spaces like effectively and tell your story. I guess that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely like the motto of like the summary of this, like every part of your application really, really matters. It's not just there for decorations. It's really there for a reason. Um, you were mentioning how it's actually not bad to be rejected during like 12th grade. Um, I actually want to highlight that part because a lot of students, I don't know, for most of the students that we work with over the summer through the CTP summer program or even the spring, we do have like a bunch of students, like some students get accepted, but most of those, like most of the students also kind of get rejected. So which means they're kind of faced with having to reapply again over the next year, and which means they have to deal with rejections. Coming to like looking backwards and thinking about it now, I really think, in fact, me taking a gap year has really helped me, as opposed to like, I in fact think taking a gap year is like might be better than going, like, even if it works, like directly from 12th grade to college. And I know this might be like a little bit controversial, but like here are my reasoning. I think, at least from my personal experience, I think I've been able to, one, you gain you kind of mature first, like the 1 year like that you take, like you don't just waste your time. Like that gap year isn't a waste of time. You most likely attend university like in Ethiopia, so it can be any one of the local universities that you go to. So those 1 year, especially for me, like I was doing software engineering for my first year in Amskilo, and that 1 year really helped me get ahead as soon as, like, when I got into like freshman year like in Columbia. um I knew most of the content, so like I didn't have a hard time catching up with class content, catching up with like calculus classes, catching up with like intro to the programming classes and everything. This was all because that like that one gap year that I took kind of gave me an edge, of like, it kind of gave me a head start, I guess. So that's one. Two, it also helps you, like you said before, it helps you figure out what you're really interested in. So normally, if you're getting in directly from grade 12 to like college immediately, sure, like American colleges definitely give you flexibility in terms of like what, when to commit, but a whole one gap year, like 1 year, is even much more flexibility, where you're like, okay, you've taken, like, you're attending universities and you get to explore the interest, like explore what majors you like or what majors you don't like, if, for example, like you took medicine and you figured out, oh, this, I was really, um most of them, like 90% of the reason that I joined med school was because of the movies, and it wasn't really because of I was super interested in it,
Yeah.
so you get these like illuminations during that gap year, and it really isn't a bad thing. It's actually a very important thing. And like that 1 year, I like, I remember I used to think, oh my god, like I've been studying for the past, like, I don't know, 5 months prepping for college application, so this is the first time around, right? And then I got rejected from all of them, so I think, like, I don't know, 12 11 colleges, I'm not sure. um I was like heartbroken. I remember, yo, like, oh shit, it's like but because I thought, I imagined, oh, this is, all of this was to like a waste, like I'm just going to waste a whole year. Even if I get accepted like next year, I would have wasted an entire year. But that is not even close to true. It actually gives you like a better, and puts you in a better position for your, for when your college experience actually starts. um yeah, so that, I guess I wanted to kind of put that out there, because I really keep getting these questions from students a lot.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I think we've run out of time, by like 5 or even more minutes. This was a very, I think, helpful conversation. I really hope that our, listeners found this conversation helpful, especially our students that are, during their first year right now. I mean, like, that are on gap year right now and who are really like hoping to apply next year, or students who've applied this year and are waiting for results. Since I believe regular decision, was on January 1, and decisions will come out in April 1. So if, um, knock on wood, if stuff comes out as like, if everything comes out as rejections, you should obviously not take that as a failure. You should just, kind of reorient your mindset into like, okay, next year I'm gonna, work on everything that I've done bad, like this previous year, and make sure that I focus on every part of the application, like Debbie said again and again. Work on your supplement essays, work on the various parts of your application essays, and make it better. um, yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much, Debbie, for this podcast.
Thank you
And
for having me.
all right, great. Goodbye, everyone.